Welcome back, guys. In this tutorial I'm going to show you a very important concept in routing, okay? And this concept is most widely used concept, okay? And in every networking project that you will undertake or in your assignment, you will encounter this important concept. So the concept is called inter-VLAN routing. Inter-VLAN routing. So guys, before we can understand what we mean by inter-VLAN routing, kindly subscribe to our channel, like, and leave a comment below, okay? So we are good to go. Inter-VLAN routing. In the previous classes, we learned how to configure VLANs, right? We configured VLANs, and we said devices in different VLANs, let's say, and we said devices in same VLAN will communicate, okay? But devices in different VLANs is equal to no communications by default, right? Devices in same VLAN will communicate, but devices in different VLANs by default will not communicate because they belong to a separate broadcast domain, okay? So guys, there's a scenario where in your network there are several VLANs, right? And let's say departments in your network, IT department, HR, finance, and there are devices in each and every department, okay? And you want these devices to communicate, but we have said by default they cannot communicate, right? What will you do to make these devices in different VLANs to communicate? We introduce a concept called inter-VLAN routing. Pretty much simple. Basically, inter-VLAN routing enables devices in different VLANs to communicate, okay? So it enables devices in different VLANs to communicate, okay? Right. So using inter-VLAN routing protocol, we will be able to implement communication between multiple VLANs, okay? So guys, there are two ways to configure inter-VLAN routing, and before we can look at those two ways, I want to tell you that inter-VLAN routing should be implemented in layer 3 devices. Layer 3 devices include routers or layer 3 switches, okay? Alright, so we can implement inter-VLAN routing either in a router or a layer 3 switch, okay? And there are two ways. The first way to implement inter-VLAN routing is called router on a stick. Okay? And another way is called switch virtual interface, which is known as SVI, okay? So in the first case, we are going to use a router, okay? And in the second category, we are going to use a layer 3 switch. So the first case is what we are going to configure today, router on a stick, inter-VLAN routing, okay? Pretty much simple. And now the second method, we will look at it in the second class, right? So guys, let's start with a router on a stick, and understand that a router on a stick, we use routers, okay, to implement inter-VLAN routing. And in those routers, on a single interface we create sub interfaces. Okay, so it's in these sub interfaces that we will assign VLANs. Okay, let's say it's gig 00. So under gig 00 parent interface we will create some sub interface, let's say child interfaces. Let's say gig 0/0.10, gig 0/0.20 sub interfaces to implement inter-VLAN routing. So guys, without any further ado, let's check this in our practicals. So in this network, or rather in this topology, I'll need a router. We said for you to implement inter-VLAN routing, you must include a layer 3 device. A layer 3 device can be a router or layer 3 switches. So I'll need a LAN basically to create VLANs. So I'll need just one switch and let's say 6 computers. So these computers will be in VLAN 10, this one will be VLAN 20, and the two will be in VLAN 30. Okay, so what I'll do is basically to connect router to switch, then from the switch to the, let's say start from this PC and this one to this one. Automatic will select the immediate. If you have selected 2, automatic will take from 3. So let's just finish it up. So these devices here should be in VLAN 10, VLAN 20, then VLAN 30. So let me just try to separate the boundaries. Let's take blue, that is VLAN 10, another one is that color purple, that's VLAN 20, another one is, let's take yellow, and VLAN 30 finally. So what I'll do, guys, I'll comment here should be VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30. VLAN 30. And guys, you should make sure that you include the networks. So let's say in VLAN 10 we have a network of 192.168.1.0/24. Then here should be 192.168.2.0/24. Then finally here should be 192.168.3.0/24. And now we're done, guys. We're done with the matter of comments. So what's remaining basically is to configure inter-VLAN routing. Okay, and we'll start with the VLAN configuration and try to ping if PC from VLAN 10 can ping PC from VLAN 20 or 30 by default. Okay, so I'll go to this switch. The first thing that I'll do, enable config T. Okay, so which interfaces are these? FA03 and FA02, because this one is FA01. Okay, so I'll go to this one and say interface range FA0/3/2 to 3. Okay, how do we configure VLAN? Switch port mode access. Okay, hit enter. Then switch port access VLAN 10 and you hit enter. As you can see, access VLAN does not exist creating VLAN 10. It's created successfully. So what I'll do right. Okay, so the two interfaces have accessed VLAN 10. So let's go to this interface here, the two interfaces. This one is FA0/4 and FA0/5. So I'll go and say exit. Let me try to retrieve FA0/4 to 5. Then switch port mode access. Then switch port mode access VLAN 20. Do right. Then let's go to the last two interfaces, this one and this one. So this one is FA0/7 and FA0/6. Yeah, 6. So exit, and let me try to retrieve. Okay, FA0/6 to 7. Then interface switch port mode access. Okay, then switch port access VLAN 30. Then do right. What's remaining here is to assign IP address to these host devices. So I'll go to this computer and I'll say 192.168.1.2, then subnet mask. For the part of default gateway, just let's skip it for now. I'll tell you something about it. Then go to IP configuration 192.168.1.3, subnet mask. Then I go to these computers and say 192.168.2.2. okay, let me just copy this one. Then I go to the other computer, desktop IP configuration 2.3 now. Okay, and now the last two, this one should be 3.2, and then the other one should be 3.3. I mean, okay, no problem. 3.3. Okay, now let me try. This one is 3.3, 3.2, 2.2, 2.3, I mean 2.2, and so on and so forth. So I'll try to ping from this computer to this one first, then from this one to this one to this one. Let me try ping 3.2. As you can see, it's pinging successfully. Why? Because they belong to the same VLAN. Okay, devices in the same VLAN will communicate. This one and this one is in the same VLAN. Alright, okay, so let me try to ping from PC4 to PC0. PC0 was 1.2. There will be no communication, guys. Why? Devices in different VLANs cannot communicate. Okay, so that's why there's a concept of inter-VLAN routing to enable the devices in the different VLANs to communicate, and that's what we're gonna implement today. So let's go, guys. We say we implement inter-VLAN routing in the layer 3 device, either router or layer 3 switch. Okay, the first thing that you must do is to enable trunk interface between this switch here and the router. Remember, access ports or access interfaces can only access one VLAN at a time. Okay, so to enable these VLANs to communicate, they will go to the router, all of these, then the router will forward the traffic to the right destination. So this link here must be trunk, okay, because trunk can be accessed with many VLANs, multiple VLANs. So let's make this link here to be trunk. So what I'll do, click on the switch and say exit interface FA0/1 is the first interface. Okay, then switch port mode trunk. Okay, and do right. Now we are done configuring everything in the switch. So what's remaining is to configure inter-VLAN routing in this router. Let's start, guys. Pretty much simple. How to configure inter-VLAN routing. Let me comment. The first command that you must include, you must observe that which interface is this one. The connecting interface with that router is gig 0/0. Okay, so in that interface we are going to create sub interfaces and assign them to each VLAN number. Okay, let me show you. So for example, for VLAN 10, the sub interface will be interface gig 0/0.10. Guys, don't forget how to create sub interface. Interface gig 0/0.10. This interface, a child of this interface. Okay, a sub interface. Then after doing that, you say encapsulation dot 1Q, then the VLAN number 10. Okay, and then you give the IP address of the default gateway of that particular VLAN. So for example, in this VLAN, the default gateway will be 192.168.1.1. Okay, so let's just say IP address. Okay, IP address 192.168.1.1. Okay, then subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Okay, so for that we shall have achieved configuring inter-VLAN routing for this VLAN. So we do the same for the other VLANs. Okay, so for example, for VLAN 20, I'll just comment again. You just say interface gig 0/0.20. Okay, a sub interface of this one. So this one took .10 because it's VLAN 10. This one now should take VLAN .20 because it's VLAN 20. So you hit enter, then encapsulation dot 1Q, then the VLAN number 20. Right, then you give the default gateway. Let's say IP address 192.168.2.1, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Okay, okay guys, configuring this here, we shall have achieved inter-VLAN routing for this VLAN. Okay, and the same we can do to the other VLAN. Okay, so guys, without wasting any time, let's configure inter-VLAN routing. So I'll go to this router, CLI, say no, enable config T, then interface gig 0/0, this one, say this one, this interface, this one. Okay, and now a sub interface of that particular interface dot 10, because here is VLAN 10. Okay, you hit enter. As you can see, sub interface, we are in a sub interface. Okay, then what you say here, just say dot encapsulation, hit tab. After writing something like this, just hit tab, dot, hit tab again, dot 1Q. Okay, then VLAN number here. Okay, 10, and hit enter. And now you give address of the default gateway. IP address, okay, 192.168.1.1, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and you hit enter. Do right and you exit this sub interface, and now let's enter the second configuration. Interface gig 0/0.20 for which VLAN? This one. Okay, so you hit enter and say encapsulation.1q20 VLAN number. Okay, and now you give IP address. It was 2.1, the default gateway, guys. You hit enter and do right, exit, and now let's go for the last configuration. This one. For this one, I'll say interface gig 0/0.30, a sub interface. Then encapsulation.1q30. Okay, and now IP address, the IP address of the default gateway 3.1. Do right, okay, exit, and now do show start. As you can see, guys, we have created 3 sub interfaces, .10, .20, .30, and in each sub interface we have assigned a particular VLAN number and IP address of the default gateway. Okay, so I'll go to this network here, these devices, and assign default gateway. Now default gateway should be, copy that, .1 here. Then I go to the other PC and say .1, 1.1, I think so. Let me go to the first one. What did I configure? Yeah, okay. Then we go to this one, should be 2.1, 2.1, 2.1. So again, this one should be 2.1, 2.1, 2.1, and another one, the last one should be 3.1, default gateway 3.1, and now the last PC should be 3.1. So guys, after implementing this, guys, the devices in the network will be able to communicate. Okay, so guys, we have configured VLANs in this network. Okay, there are 3 VLANs, VLAN 10, 20, 30, and we have configured inter-VLAN routing. Okay, and now guys, VLAN 10 here will be able to communicate VLAN 30 or VLAN 20 using which technology? Inter-VLAN routing. So, oh, I was forgetting something. I did not turn on the gig 00 interfaces hub. You know, it's down by default. The router's interfaces are in shutdown state, so it's upon us to turn them up. So I should turn it on. Let's say on here. Go to CL high, or you can use CL high and do right. So it's done. We are good to go. So basically what I'll do, I'll try to ping from this PC to this PC. So this PC is 3.3. okay, so let's go to desktop. Remember the first time I pinged, it was unsuccessful. All the requests were timeout. Okay, so let me just ping 192.168.3.3. okay, just give it time. I believe the first packet might fail, but now the subsequent one will be successful. As you can see, guys, VLAN 10 can now be able to communicate with VLAN 30. Okay, the devices in VLAN 10 are able to communicate with the devices in VLAN 30. Why? principle of inter-VLAN routing. So let me just try from VLAN 30 also to VLAN 20 here. Ping 192.168.2.3. The first packet might always fail, but the subsequent one, as you can see, is successful, guys. And now if you try to ping again, all will be successful. All the echo requests will be successful. Okay guys, so that's the simplest way to configure inter-VLAN routing using router on a stick. Remember, we said there are two ways to configure inter-VLAN routing: router on a stick and switch virtual interface, SVI. So in the next class, guys, we will look at SVI. Guys, before you can log out, kindly subscribe to our channel, like and share our videos. Bye and see you again in the next class.